This is NHTV2, North Haven Government Television, a service of North Haven Community Television. The following program is brought to you through the support of the Town of North Haven.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Planning and Zoning Commission for June 2nd, 2025. My name is Vern Carlson, and I'm the chairman of the meeting. I don't know if we're going to make it here, but our meetings are usually 7 to 10 p.m. So I don't know if we get everybody in here. I don't know who's going to talk or who's going to speak in respect to these hearings or not, but we'll do what we can. We have a shortened agenda, actually. Let me introduce our staff to you folks. Out to my extreme right is Andy Bevilacqua. He is our town engineer. Next to him is Alan Fredrickson, who is our land use administrator. Out to my extreme left is Tanya. She is our court reporter. To her is our staff secretary, Christine Hilton. And with that, would you introduce yourself?
Carrie Maddie, I'm an alternate.
Ken Quick, regular member.
Rod Williams, regular member, and happy last meeting to
Alan.
Mr. Fredrickson.
Yes.
Paul Wyman, Vice Chair, and Echo.
Brian Cummings, Secretary.
Mark Parisi, alternate.
Okay, with that being said, this will be, what they're talking about here is Alan's retiring. After this month, this is his last meeting that he's be here. So, is that a good O or bad O?
Yeah.
Well, definitely a bad.
That's why you look so happy tonight.
Okay, well, with that being said, the agenda's been changed a little bit. And, Alan, has there been any changes to the agenda?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, items number 1, 5, 6, and 7 are off the agenda for this evening. They pertain to 23 Maiden Lane and 400 Sackett Point Road. All 4 of those applications have been withdrawn by the applicant. So they will not be heard next month. They've been withdrawn.
Right. So
They will ultimately be heard. They'll be back.
Eventually they'll get
Not
here.
yet.
So if there's
Maybe a
anybody
few
here
things are now.
for those applications, we're not gonna hear them tonight. We are going to hear, what we have here, I guess. Okay, folks, we're gonna get going. Brian, would you do the poll? We have, 1, 2, 3 public hearings tonight. So we're gonna get going on the first public hearing, which I ask Alan to read it into the call form.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, this is P2511. Application of Tiffany Russell, applicant, proposed amendment to the North Haven zoning regulations to define set parking standards for and add to use the section 2.1.1.5F residential care homes in residential zoning districts. The proposed amendment is on file in the Land Use Office and the Office of the Town Clerk. All right.
Okay. Amy? It's yours.
Thank you. Is that picking me up? Awesome. Amy Suchins, attorney with Hurwitz, Sager, and Salzberg and Nuff, with office at 135 Broad Street in Milford, here representing Tiffany Russell, who is the owner of 19 Longview Drive. The application before you, as you just heard in the legal notice, is a text amendment to allow or to create the definition for a residential care home in the zoning regulations, and then also to create a parking standard and allow the residential care homes in the R40, R20, and R12 districts. I think relatively straightforward application with respect to what the use is. This is a facility licensed by the State of Connecticut Department of Public Health. It provides not quite the standard of a nursing home care, but something that would be licensed and help particularly older individuals with sort of life functions. If somebody needs assistance, isn't quite ready for a nursing home, but can't live independently, this is the opportunity to live outside of that kind of more institutional setting in a property that would be more akin to a single family home or less institutional setting. And so as the individual definition provides, basically talks about that, food, shelter, various services for 2 or more persons, again, licensed by the Department of Public Health. And then with respect to the off-street parking standard, we just utilized the existing parking standard for nursing homes, hospitals, sanitariums, of 1 space per every 4 bedrooms and 1 space per 3 employees provided at any time. And then also included in the application is sort of the rationale for this amendment under the Fair Housing Act and the Americans with Disabilities Act. I think highlighting for you the most important considerations, the Connecticut Superior Court and consistent with federal law provides that there's a 2-pronged test for accommodations under federal law in both of those statutes. First, whether or not the requested accommodation would result in a substantial expense to the community. That would be a situation as occurred, it was actually a case out of Hamden. If you needed to buy a fire truck, if you needed to have some sort of substantial municipal expense associated with the accommodation, and then also whether or not it would fundamentally alter the zoning scheme that's been adopted. And here, as we noted, we're adding it to the residential districts. This would be consistent with the types of single-family homes that are existing in those districts, same structures and everything else. It does not override any of the other criteria found in those regulations, and in fact refers back to the section, as we noted in the regulations, that did provide the cross-reference to 9.1.8, which talks about the overall density of residential use is the caption in 9.1.8. Most importantly, the application before you, just to be clear, is a text amendment. It would allow the use by special permit in any of the zones. So we would, if the regulation were adopted, my client would still need to come back with a special permit application and all of the criteria associated with the special permit application in order to create or allow the use. So this is really just to put the regulations into effect and then allow us to come back in with a complete application. So, as I said, because it's a text amendment, very straightforward. Happy to answer any questions you have or that the public may have.
Okay. All right, Amy, that concludes your presentation?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Rod, do you have any thoughts on this, or?
I will in a minute, but I'm still thinking about it, so
Yeah.
if someone else wants to go.
Ken, you?
I guess my first question is there a existing project that's planned for the special permit that's already in motion or going
So my
forward for
client
this?
has been talking to the Department of Public Health about what would be involved for licensing and associated with the operations. As part of that process, she had reached out to zoning staff about what would be involved. They advised, obviously, that a regulation amendment would be necessary before she could move forward with anything. So she is working sort of on parallel path to figure out what she needs for the Department of Public Health and then get the regulation amendment in play.
If I can just sort of perhaps clarify something. I didn't recommend that a regulations amendment be filed. I think that was possibly Laura Matarasi, zoning enforcement officer. There were a couple of attempts to obtain a building permit for a particular project, and quite honestly, I don't even remember exactly what they were for. And it seemed that it was not for the same thing twice, I think the request was modified, and I'm not really sure what the project would be at this point. I'm not really sure what the ask, will be at that point. But as far as recommending an amendment, I think there were some moments when there were things requested about short-term rentals and such that would require an amendment. And there were some questions about the capacity of a community home that would be, which business would be conducted there. So I'm not really sure at what point Laura felt it needed an amendment. But regardless, they've made an amendment, and this is what you have
Correct.
before you.
And I was gonna say, I came into this a little bit later in the process, but my understanding was that there was, as Alan noted, there were some discussions with Laura early on in the process and some questions. And I would say earlier this spring, sort of late winter, early spring was when the client reached out to us based on the recommendation from Laura and I think guidance that she was getting from the Department of Health about what she wanted to do, which was to allow the single family, what's currently a single family home, to be accommodated this way, and that it would require an amendment and then a subsequent special permit. And like Alan said, I think that was a combination of some initial input and then the recommendation from Laura.
Okay, I guess I kind of have a question about that. This is what I'm struggling with a little bit. So I'm looking, I was trying to look at the cases and understand the law. And I know that there's, it can be discriminatory if an accommodation isn't made for a handicapped person. And there's this Shapiro case that could find a violation of the FHA or ADA or both if, again, an individual is denied something. I know in that case, the Second Circuit case, it was an individual who wanted like a parking relief, basically. So, is there legal support? I haven't read the rest of the cases straight through, but I think these are all based on a particular project in mind or something rather than just enabling something in the zoning act. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the notion, and the Spring Glen case, I think, was very much fact specific in that circumstance. But I think the notion and the thought process is that if you have a zone or a use that is addressed by the Fair Housing Act and the ADA, part of what you want is to have the regulation in place to allow that. So you have a conforming use, you're not doing it under, I know some towns will do it as sort of a de facto variance or as an administrative approval specific to that particular user. I think the thought process is that the amendment gives it the sort of, not the protection, but the standard of being a specific use and the zoning concepts and guidance that comes along with it of having it as a called out use. It's not just a building classified for zoning purposes as one thing, but being used differently. So the easy example is always the single family home that from a zoning perspective is a single family home, but technically being used as a group home as an accommodation under the ADA. I think here the use is not, it's more than something like a group home, but so the regulation would put that structure into place and frankly give you then the ability to review it in the context of a special permit.
So it creates a process.
Yeah.
All right, thanks. That's all I have for now.
And this is gonna be commercial businesses, right? Or nonprofit that we're talking about?
Right, it would be, right, I think who the operator is could be either one. I know there are religious organizations or things like that that operate convalescent homes or nursing homes, whatever we sort of have traditionally called them. But it could be a for-profit or a nonprofit business.
It looks like we're calling for a broad change across the. You know, it looks like we're calling for a broad change from 12, 20, and 40 as far as the zones. And so it's going to affect everything, pretty much everything in our, all the residentials, pretty much. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Brian?
Yeah, I had some questions. Your amendment, this is going to be another subsection of, I guess, that section 2.1.1.5
Yes.
will be? That will also be subject to what is called out in 9.1.8, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Because that specifies basically the number of, I guess, bedrooms and for potential patients and limiting them to 8.
Yes, so in, under 9.1.8, my read of that is sleeping accommodations any lot not exceed 8 for each unit of land area appearing under the heading minimum lot area. So if, for example, you had a much larger parcel,
Yeah.
you might be able to accommodate a larger facility.
Up
But
to
if
8.
you are on 1 acre, you're limited to 8. So it's basically creating an 8.
Yeah, but your amendment is looking for, it says furnish food and shelter for 2 or more persons. And more can be a lot more, so.
Correct, and that's consistent with the state licensing
Okay.
language.
So this, okay, that's the state. Okay, thank you very much.
You good?
I'm good.
Mark?
I've got nothing at this time.
Gary?
Nothing right now.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, I have another question. Just so I understand that. Is the proposal 8 maximum if it's a 1 acre or like an R40, standard size R40 lot, or?
Correct,
Is it not
under
that?
under the provision of, so if you cross-reference back to the minimum lot area per family unit, I think then you wind up with, if you had just literally 43,560 square feet, you could have 8. If you had more, if you had a full 2 acres, you could theoretically do 16 based on the limitation of 9.1.8.
So I'm sorry, just trying to
Yeah.
understand what you're saying though. So the way I would interpret that would be you have 1 until you have 2. So you would need 80,000 square feet to get to 2 land units. So you couldn't subdivide the lot into a lot and a third. You can only subdivide when you get to 2. So if this lot is somewhere less than 80,000 square feet, if it's 79,999, you've got 1. You can
Yes.
hold off on that. That's
Right,
okay.
I
That's
think
okay.
I need
don't
to reread it,
Okay.
but I understand the point you're making.
Okay.
There's no partial credit.
Correct, yeah, it's not an interpolation, it's just, when you get to the second one, you got 2, then you get 16, but anyway.
So does it mean 4 for R20 and 2 for R12, or is it not that simple?
No, you get, if you were an R20 and you had a 40,000 square foot lot, you've got 2 land units, you've got 16.
Okay, got it.
How would that apply though? I mean, if you've got R20, you've got 20,000 square feet. And with this, Oh, sure. How would that apply? Because on R20, you've got 20,000 square feet. I mean, this is the minutia, I don't know if we need to get into, but.
Well, if you had a piece of raw land and it was in R20, you can split the property into 20,000 square foot parcels minimum. So if it was in R40, it's 40,000 minimum. So there are other sections of the regs that are described in that manner, but that's the land area. If you get, if you can rezone your R40 to R12, you got yourself a home run.
A big, an awful big
Don't worry about it, it's not happening.
Yeah.
I just made it up.
Well, that's a long time ago since that happened, but you make a great point there. But in any event, it's, anything else from the commission?
No.
Okay.
Amy, you're concluded? Would you,
For now,
for now?
I have a feeling
I know you're never.
there might be some
concluded.
comments after me.
Okay,
I have to ask one more question.
Yeah.
Sorry. In the letter, this last page, memo, it's the memo that came from your office. I think it was
Yes.
Attorney Nuff that drafted it. There's a reference to a quote from the Town of North Haven Fair Policy Statement, but it says
That
Borough.
inadvertently said Borough of
Okay.
Naugatuck.
Alright.
It is, I double checked today, it is the exact same language.
Is it? Oh,
Yes,
All right.
apparently,
Just
I
take it from-
suspect that it is, having looked at it somewhere else too, it's probably standard municipal language about the Fair Housing Act.
Okay, gotcha.
So
But yes.
it's a
That makes
typo
sense.
It is a
in
ty-
our document
It
as
is,
well.
it is a, no, it is a typo in my memo.
Mhm.
Okay.
It is, the rest of the sentence reads exactly the same, and so it says, it is the policy of the town of North Haven to promote fair housing, blah, 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 blah. So that's why I'm saying, I think the language in your, fair housing policy statement, is identical to other towns' fair housing policy statement.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah.
Ken,
No, I'm good.
Brian?
All set.
Okay, Amy.
Thank you, and I did, just
Yep.
for the
If you
record, I
have
did get
anything-
the,
Anything add on
deep
at this
comments.
moment?
no, nothing else at the moment.
Okay, good.
Happy to come
I'm gonna
back after
I'm gonna
public
open it
comment.
up because there's a lot of people here. Okay, well, it's a big crowd. How many people are here to speak in favor of this application? Anyone here in favor? How many in opposition? Okay. Hold them hands up, please.
I'll put two hands up back there.
I'm gonna use 44.
44, okay.
But, okay, we'll. Fair enough. Wait, she was here
Okay.
for 31 steak.
Before we open this up to the total public, is there any legal people? Tim?
Yes,
Okay, would you like to speak before we get into this?
sure, thank you very much.
Any other attorneys here that would like to speak, please come forward.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. My name is Timothy Lee. I'm an attorney with an address of 107 Montague Street in Branford. With me to my right is Attorney Lawrence Maurizio. He is a property owner in North Haven. I am here tonight on behalf of Attorney Maurizio to
It's for recording only, it's not for
What
amplification.
about this one?
No,
Well,
it's only
about
recording.
Yeah.
All right. I'm here tonight on behalf of Attorney Maurizio to speak in opposition to the amendment allowing a residential care homes in residentially zoned property in North Haven. The applicant is seeking to amend the text of the zoning regulations. When amending the zoning regulations, the commission acts in its legislative capacity. The P&Z has sole discretion to approve or deny the application. You can do whatever you think is in the best interests of the town and its residents when you consider this text amendment. In this case, we believe that the best decision for the commission is to deny the text change application. The applicant has not really presented any strong arguments in support of the text amendment. The applicant has referred to the ADA and the FHA, but it is extremely difficult to apply those two statutes without the presentation of a real application for a specific piece of property. In the Spring case cited by the applicant, the court cited a two-pronged test for the commission to evaluate an application under the ADA and the FHA. Pursuant to the two-pronged test, the commission must consider, one, whether the application would alter the zoning scheme of the district, and two, whether the accommodation would impose undue financial burden on the community. The answer to the first question is yes. The text change will alter the zoning scheme. It will allow a new use in town, which is presently not permitted under the zoning regulations. Therefore, by definition, it is a change to the zoning scheme. As to the second question, there is no doubt that the amendment would impose a financial burden on the neighbors. The applicant has not presented any evidence that such a use would not have an adverse impact on the neighborhood and its property values. However, common sense will tell you that if this application is approved and an application is ultimately submitted for any property within a residential zone, that application will have a negative impact on surrounding property values. I would ask the commission to apply its common sense when evaluating this particular application. If the commission is inclined to amend the zoning regulations, we suggest that the commission amend the zoning regulations to eliminate hospitals and convalescent homes in residential areas. Or, in the alternative, keep such uses confined to major arterial roads in the town and not neighborhood roads filled with families and children. Those uses, convalescent homes, commercial homes, and ultimately this proposed use, are really commercial uses. They involve multiple people living in a house with employees who work there, involves additional car traffic, additional medical care, those types of things. Those uses, not only the managed care use, but also the hospital use and the convalescent home use, really are not appropriate in a residential neighborhood. Under the current version of the regulations, if I purchase a home in a residential neighborhood on a 1 acre lot, I can put a hospital or a convalescent home. Those uses don't make sense. Once again, if the commission is going to take any action, we would ask the commission to take action to eliminate those uses from residential zones, not to add additional uses which are not consistent with residentially zoned property. To the extent the applicant is seeking a residential care facility at a specific address, and that issue is not before you tonight, an amendment to the zoning regs is not the most efficient way to achieve that result. The amendment would allow a residential care home in any residential neighborhood in town. The commission would not get to, under the regulation at issue tonight, the commission does not get the opportunity to evaluate a specific property to determine whether this use makes sense. The commission does not get to consider whether this property complies with public safety requirements. Does it create a traffic issue? And is there access to public transportation? Those type of things. Because we're not dealing with a specific piece of property. We're dealing with a global change to a regulation which will apply to all residential property throughout the town of North Haven. In other towns, I have seen these type of applications dealt with a variance application to the Zoning Board of Appeals as opposed to a text change to the regulation which has general applicability to all residentially zoned properties. We would suggest that the applicant should avail themselves of that opportunity and go to the Zoning Board of Appeals and not pursue the text change application in the regulation. Based on the presentation.
Good evening. The North Haven Library will be closing in 30 minutes. Public computers, copiers, and Wi-Fi will be shutting down in 15 minutes. All purchases from the bookstore and cafe, along with library card applications, must be completed by 7:45. Thank you.
I also had a difficult time hearing portions of the presentation, but when the applicant comes back, I would ask the commission to ask for clarification as to who do they intend to occupy this residential care facility? And are these people that are going to be subject to regulation pursuant to Connecticut General Statute 17B-352? Based on the description I heard, I'm not sure that use would qualify under that particular regulation. Other issue that I asked the commission to clarify is the number of beds per acre. I know that under the terms of the regulation, there's a reference to section 9.1.8. Under that regulation, there would be allowed 8 beds on any residential home. However, the regulation also requires that a lot have a minimum size of 40,000 square feet under the regulation that's proposed. There are certain residential zones in North Haven which are less than 40,000 square feet. I would like to have clarification from the commission whether this regulation applies to lots which are less than 40,000 square feet. The way I read the regulation, if you had a 20,000 square foot lot, you would not be eligible to submit an application to the town for a residential care facility because under the terms of the regulation, it does not have 40,000 square feet of property. So when the applicant comes back, I would ask the commission to clarify those 2 points. In conclusion, once again, we respect that the commission deny this text amendment and help preserve the residential character of the neighborhoods in North Haven.
Thank you. And good evening, Commission. Chairman Carlson, thank you for having us tonight. I am Lawrence Maurizio. I'm a resident of 16 Longview Drive. I own the property directly across the street from 19 Longview Drive. And I want to thank the whole commission for being here and allowing us to present our opposition this evening. You saw by show of hands that there is clearly a strong opposition, and I know we have to really distinguish tonight between what the real mission of this evening is, which is to look at these 3 aspects that the application are seeking to have approved. Both looking at the definition of, to set a parking standard for, and the use of a residential care home in a residential district. But I'm here really to add a more personal perspective. I am an attorney at law. I cannot profess to have the expertise of counsel to my left, both from the applicant and based on Mr. Lee's specialty. But as a homeowner of 16 Longview Drive for the last 21 years, I can tell you I have a certain expectation as to what the neighborhood is about, what it looks like. And the first thing I would say, it's about being present. And I would ask counsel, is your client here tonight, the applicant herself?
Can you address the commission?
I'm looking to see if the applicant is here tonight.
Oh, well, we can get,
You can ask the commission to ask the
Commissioner,
applicant.
Is the applicant here tonight? I'd just like to know.
okay. She'll answer for you. I'll give her an opportunity to answer for you.
Yeah, I bring this up because I really want to.
Yeah, I understand. I'm gonna give her an opportunity to answer both your questions.
Okay. So the reason why I asked about whether the applicant is available is because since the deed is passed in February 2024, no one on Longview Drive has seen the applicant at the residence. We're talking about an absentee owner who is seeking the approval of this application, and we simply have no idea as to what the motive is here. Even according to counsel's opening, in terms of what the applicant's intentions are. Doesn't sound like we know. And I think that would be a real determinative predicate as to how this commission acts, not only as to the application, but what happens when she comes back and asks for the reality of what she's trying to prepare at that block. So I was prepared to introduce myself as a neighbor to Ms. Russell tonight. She doesn't appear to be here, and that just shows a consistent pattern as to Ms. Russell's behavior over the course of her ownership of this property. I can tell you who I have met at that property, at 19 Longview Drive. I've met the renters of the property who had contracted to rent the space through Airbnb. Okay? Every weekend during the summer months in 2024, the house was leased out through Airbnb, and transient individuals came in and out of that property, giving Ms. Russell the opportunity to earn or profit off of that use. Why do I bring that up? Council had advised that this particular use would be for profit motive. And that's something that I think the commission should truly investigate as we take these next steps. Not only as it relates to this application, but what is next in terms of the use of that property. I'll tell you who else I've met at that property. After the property was vacated for the entire winter, the applicant didn't reside there. No one resided there for approximately 6 months. I don't even know how the pipes made their way through the winter. The snow was not removed from the driveway. The mail was not removed from the box. And in the spring, I had the occasion to run into one of 4 individuals occupying that property through rental of the applicant. So on those 2 occasions, I can tell you that there's a profit motive for Ms. Russell. And I honestly, during the winter months, felt bad that perhaps she wasn't making her money back, whether she couldn't sell the property, there's a downturn in the economy, whatever it was. As a good neighbor, I felt bad, and I didn't make any complaints whatsoever. But I think her intentions are something that need to be addressed as we look forward as to what's next with respect to 19 Longview Drive. It's not just gonna affect 19 Longview, but it's gonna affect every resident that raised their hand in opposition here today. Just so you know the context of Longview Drive in North Haven, every single owner of Longview Drive is an original owner of their lot or their home since the inception of that block. That's 250 years of residents being present, paying taxes, going to PTA meetings, coaching Little League teams. Those residents are present. Those residents deserve, when an applicant makes an application like this, for the applicant to be present so we can determine, so you can determine what the motive is. When you're talking about putting a residential care home in that spot or in any spot, you certainly want to know what the facts are. And we simply don't have enough facts to move forward. Not only with respect to this application, but what's next. And I can tell you, based on the opposition, this isn't just about individuals upset for various reasons. Every single resident behind me of Longview Drive has cared for, loved, and regarded an infirmed or disabled individual in their home throughout the course of their residence there. So for the applicant to come in and use the ADA as a pretext to make profit motive, it's dishonest, it's disingenuous, and it's insulting to the residents of Longview Drive. If the applicant was here to personally present what her intentions were, we might be on our separate ways already. But I think we know. I think we know. There is no license requested currently in any state agency for approval of a residential care home in the applicant's name. We don't know what her motive is, but I can tell you, based on her history, she's a realtor. This is about profit. She hasn't been present on that block for a fraction of the quarter of a millennia that these residents of Longview Drive have been. And to come in here and send counsel without those answers is insulting to what we have to accomplish here tonight. So I'd like the commission to take into account what Attorney Lee had expressed in terms of the nature of the application and why we're opposing it. I'm not going to restate those items. There are many individuals behind me that do want to make statements in terms of their feelings about the application. So I'm going to thank you. We are strongly opposing the application as stated. And before I leave, I just want to read into evidence a letter from one of our residents of Juniper Drive, which is on the corner of Longview. And then I'd like to call up two individuals from Longview Drive that would like to address you, if you'd be amenable to that, Chair.
Come ahead.
I can read this letter in now if you have questions.
Do it right now, yes.
Great. I have a letter from Martha Santoema, who's a resident of 1 Juniper Drive. It's dated May 30th, 2025.
I'm sorry, who is that?
Martha Santoema.
Thank you.
She's a resident of 1 Juniper Drive. Dear member of the Planning and Zoning Commission, I'm writing to formally express my opposition to the proposed residential ADA housing at 19 Longview Drive. As a resident of 1 Juniper Drive for over 30 years, I feel compelled to share my concerns about how this project may affect the safety, character, and long-term viability of our neighborhood. First and foremost, the physical structure of the proposed home does not seem suitable for individuals with disabilities. The home features 2 floors connected by staircases, multiple balconies, and a pool in the backyard. These elements introduce significant safety risks for potential residents with mobility or cognitive challenges and raise questions about whether the property can realistically meet ADA standards in a residential setting. Additionally, I have witnessed the development and decline of similar residential ADA homes in our own neighborhood. In the past, 2 such homes were introduced. Unfortunately, both ventures were unsuccessful and ultimately went into foreclosure. Each of those properties has since reverted back to standard residential housing. These failures suggest a pattern that should be carefully considered before introducing another similar residence. Another critical concern is the traffic impact on our street. The intersection near the proposed site is already known as a hazard, and increasing traffic from caregivers, service providers, or visitors to the residents could further exacerbate safety issues. The design of our streets was not intended to support the added volume and frequency of cars such a home might generate. In light of these concerns, I respectfully urge decision makers to reconsider the placement of this ADA residential home in our neighborhood. While I fully support the need for accessible housing, it is vital that such housing is appropriately matched to the physical environment, safety conditions, and long-term sustainability in the community where it is introduced. Thank you for your time and attention to this matter. Sincerely, Martha. With that, Mr. Chairman, I again would ask that you take into consideration the items that Attorney Lee has presented in terms of the nature of the neighborhood and its effect on every single resident of North Haven. While the applicant has purchased a home in North Haven, she's an absentee resident. She's literally sight unseen, and she's looking to come in to North Haven.
Good evening. The North Haven Library will be closing in 15 minutes. Please begin to make your final selections to check out at this time. Thank you.
I would again urge the commission to uphold the current residential zoning protections provided and request that the application be denied in full. I thank you for your time and service, and with that, I would like to introduce 2 members from Longview Drive, if you would listen.
Okay, just 1 second, sir.
Thank you.
Tim?
Yeah.
Amy, I'm going to go out of order. Would you have 3 questions that they came up with that I have. If you could take care of those now. Tim?
Oh, you want, so the first question related to who is going to be the user, who do you anticipate being the users of this particular property? Second question was, well, does this regulation apply to lots that are less than 40,000 square feet? And then we had a question as to whether the applicant is present at the hearing tonight.
So the first question is outside the scope of the jurisdiction of the commission, sitting in a legislative capacity on a text amendment. It's a site-specific question. My client is actually out of town and could not be here tonight. And then with respect to the acreage question, the language, it's a fair point given the back and forth we just had. The language that we have does say a minimum lot size of 40,000 square feet. So I think then the question would be, based on Mr. Frederickson's interpretation, if you had 40,000 square feet in an R12 or one of the other smaller zones, could it go there? I think that's where we were getting back to the 9.1.8.
So the words are the words. The wording is the wording, and you live with it. Yeah, okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. All set. Thank you, Amy.
Chairman,
Okay.
would you be willing to entertain 2 speakers from Longview Drive to support the opposition?
We'll move right along with it now.
Okay.
Call them.
Carmina?
Dear Chairman Carlson and members of,
Come on, Bill. We don't need that. We know what you're here for, and we understand it, and I know this is a touchy situation here. Please.
But we need to
Quick-
speak up so that everyone can hear as best you can. And in terms of the crowd, we need to kind of move this along a little bit. I'm assuming that that Mr. Marizio has selected you as being somewhat representative of some of the opinions that are here, and maybe that will help things in terms of
Maybe it'll move them along a
ideas
little bit.
being
Please,
shared.
go. Just let them speak. We know what it's all about. Okay? Did you get their names?
But please, yeah, your name and that.
okay, so my name is Carmina Sirioli. I am a resident of 11 Longview Drive. Thank you for the opportunity to share my concerns regarding the proposed development of this residential care home in our neighborhood. First and foremost, I just want to absolutely make it clear that the concern is not about the individuals that would be living there. As a parent of a child, with special
Take your time.
needs.
Take your time. Take a break. Take a breath. Take a break.
You can switch.
Just
As a parent of a child with special needs who may be living in a residential home one day, my family is deeply committed to inclusion and to upholding the dignity and well-being of individuals with mild to moderate physical and cognitive impairment, including individuals diagnosed with intellectual and developmental disability and special health care needs. Care homes and those who live there are best supported in areas with accessibility to public services and amenities. As a caregiver for a loved one who has intellectual and developmental disability, I speak from personal experience living this reality every day. When I say that individuals with disability deserve far more than being placed wherever there happens to be space, such as tucked away at the end of a cul-de-sac, far from community and essential amenities. It's clear there was absolutely no thoughtful planning, just a careless attempt to push this most vulnerable members of the community in the corner as an afterthought. For years, we've advocated for meaningful inclusion, yet too often, decisions are made, such as this, without involving the voices of those families who truly understand the complexity of these needs. They deserve to live in communities and in areas that allow for true empowerment and independence, and near community services such as walking distance with sidewalks, to public transportation, grocery stores, and public parks. While the applicant cites the Americans with Disability Act to defend against claims of discrimination, placing residents in a location so removed from the community access contradicts the spirit of ADA, which is about inclusion, integration, and equal opportunity. True support means placing individuals where they can thrive, not out of sight, and fully connected to their community. Situating individuals with disability on a cul-de-sac far from transportation, public service, and community life risks segregating them from the broader community rather than supporting their full potential in it. We must ensure that these residents are supported in living full, integrated, connected lives, not placed in settings that will limit their engagement with the broader community. Thank you again for considering our perspective. I respectfully ask you all to carefully evaluate whether this location is appropriate for such a facility.
Okay, thank you very much. Go ahead, miss.
It's CIRIOLI. Thank you so much.
Good evening. My name is Linda George. I have lived at 1 Longview Drive since the construction of our home in 2000. I have lived in North Haven my entire life. I'm also a licensed physical therapist who has worked in home health care for over 30 years, providing physical therapy services to a wide range of clients in various settings, including group homes. My concerns this evening are not about the idea of a group home itself. I've personally seen the benefits that well-run group homes can offer to individuals like our neighbor's wonderful son who need support, and I wholly believe in inclusive care. But I do want to raise concerns about the broader context in which this group home would be operating, particularly in light of recent and proposed changes to Medicaid funding. As many of you know, the current federal administration has proposed significant cuts to Medicaid that have already passed through Congress. Historically, home and community-based services, which include services provided in group homes, have been among the first areas to face cuts when states faced Medicare funding shortfalls. This could have serious consequences. Firstly, states may reduce reimbursement rates, which are already at an all-time low. Secondly, lower rates can worsen the existing workforce shortage in direct patient and client care. Thirdly, without enough trained, consistent staff, the quality and safety of group homes can suffer. And finally, residents, families, and even nearby neighbors can be affected when oversight or staffing falters. I've experienced firsthand how fragile these systems can be, especially when funding is unstable. I've worked in group homes and other clinical settings where high turnover, understaffing, and burnout created significant challenges for both residents and staff alike. In these situations, the quality of care provided can be compromised, and the safety of everyone involved, including those living in the homes and the surrounding community, are at risk. Given these specific challenges and the current proposals to cut Medicaid funding, I urge this commission to please carefully consider these effects and how they could potentially impact this neighborhood community. Thank you for your time and consideration.
And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. While you see,
Thank you.
I'm just gonna, go ahead. No, you're all set? Okay.
Thank you.
Paul, you have some questions?
Yeah, I started out by talking about the broad effect of this text amendment. It's all R40, R20, and R12. We shouldn't really be looking at 19 Longview.
The North Haven Library will be closing in
That-
5
It's part of
minutes.
it, but
Please bring all
it's the
items
whole
to check out
town
at this time.
that we're gonna
Thank you.
be, that's gonna be affected by this change, so. And I understand people that live across the street, we shouldn't even be discussing an application that hasn't been brought before us, really. So,
I think
Just wanna
Attorney
let everybody know.
Suchins has sort of alluded to that in terms of her answer that wasn't just being snarky, but I think it is her opinion that it's outside of the realm with this type of an application. Part of the problem with it is that they filled in the address portion of the application with a particular address, so it does list 19 Longview, but as Paul Wyman is saying, it is not site-specific, it is a text amendment that applies throughout town. So it's not an application at 19 Longview that's at issue, it's an amendment that would make an application at 19 Longview possible. Anyway, I don't know if that helps.
Okay,
I just wanted to make sure that.
okay, good enough, we all set? Very good. We're gonna get back to our normal order here. So, in some sort of reasonable way here, whoever would like to speak and come up and speak, I would like to take the first one. No. Anyone would like to speak from Longview? From Longview? Are you from Longview, Drive?
Oh, I have to be from Longview.
Yeah, I'd like to hear from those folks if they're here. Is there anyone? Sure, would you come ahead? I'm gonna give you all the time you want, I promise.
Is
it okay?
Go ahead.
My name is John Buonasera. I'm the resident and owner.
The handheld one?
John, hold on for a second. Mr. Chairman, we've done this in the past, is put a time limit on the speakers. 'Cause it could, we
Well,
could have a lot of speakers here.
We do have so many of it, you know, if you could, just limit it to 3 minutes at this point, we'll never make it with 3 minutes, but, you know what? Curfew at 10 o'clock, so if we can make it, it'd be good.
And
Go ahead,
when you
John.
come up, if you can spell your last name and possibly, we got the John part, but, and give your address, that would be great.
My name is John Buonasera, Buonasora. I'm the owner and resident of 10 Longview Drive in North Haven. You know, I hear somebody say group home, rehab, convalescent. It's all kind of ambiguous, and to me, it's just, it's a profit, for profit. It's not non-profit venture. So I'm trying to figure out, is this gonna be a convalescent home? Is it gonna be alcohol rehabilitation? Is it gonna be drug rehabilitation? Is it gonna be a nursing home? The other consideration is, we're talking about how many people can actually reside there. But that doesn't give consideration to how many caregivers have to be there for those people. And how many parking spaces has to be there. Does that mean we pave the backyard and get rid of the pool so that you can get parking spaces in there? Or are the parking spaces gonna be on the cul-de-sac? How do emergency vehicles get up there and egress out? That's another consideration. But to me, it's not just about providing ADA benefits or benefits for rehab considerations. It's more about making money. And the nature of the neighborhood, the nature of the town in that area is not conducive at all to this type of facility. As one of the other residents had mentioned, there was a facility down the street that failed. And a lot of the property went into disrepair until it had to be resold and re-inhabited. So those considerations are something I would like the commission to think about, to consider, and ultimately deny the application.
Okay,
Thank you for your time.
thank you very much. Thank you so much. Anybody else from Longview would like to speak? Sure, come ahead.
Wait, he's not from Longview, but you can listen to him.
Joe? You live on Longview?
No.
No, could you hold up a second? Is there anybody else here that'd like to speak from Longview? Okay.
Okay.
What mic am I using?
Oh,
The
All right,
handheld is for the recording, the other one is for the television.
Joseph DiMartino, Papa Lane, North Haven. Good evening, members of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Well, what do we have here? The elephant in the room is the zoning change. This appears to be a zoning change for one single individual. Somebody has come into town and wants to change the zoning regulations. Well, we've had this before, and we've sent them packing. So what I'm asking you to do is the same thing we've done most of the other times when a zoning change appears to benefit just one individual. Now this property has a $764,000 mortgage according to land records. This owner would have to pack that property with people to pay that mortgage. So I don't know what's going on here. I drove past that place. I saw 4 individual cars today. So how many people are living in that house? Do people work during the day, or is there even more cars on the evening time? But what we're talking about here is the zoning change, and the memo that this lawyer North sent you, like a veiled threat. If you don't do this zoning change, we're gonna take you to court. You're discriminating. Who's this guy to send us a letter telling you what to do with our zoning regulations? That's my impression from reading that memo from this so-called lawyer. He's a lawyer for developers. Coincidentally, I just read he's representing somebody in Brantford for 172 apartments. What are they doing representing this one person who wants to turn it into a residential home? There's something not right about this. So like all the other people in this room, I urge you to just vote this down unanimously and not allow one person to benefit by a change in our zoning rules. Thank you.
Okay, Joe, thank you very much. Thank you much. Anyone else like to speak? Come right ahead.
Leon DeFermo, 62 Juniper Drive, North Haven.
Your last name, please. Just spell your last name, please.
Fermo. Okay, I was very interested in the letter that you read.
Excuse me, can you get close to that microphone as well?
Sure.
There.
Yeah.
And also address the commission.
Yeah.
Okay. I was interested in the letter that was read from the person who lived on Juniper Drive for 30 years. I lived on Juniper Drive for 50 years. And the house, one of the houses that was spoken of, that went bankrupt, was my neighbor. 3 doors away, maybe 4 doors away. Let me tell you what happened there. The emergency vehicles that came into the neighborhood, the people who didn't show up to work, the cars that came in, and then finally, apparently, from what I heard, there was a bankruptcy and it folded. I'm only speaking from firsthand experience of having had this house as my neighbor. And it was disruptive to the neighborhood with the emergency vehicles, because every time something happened to the house, they were not equipped to handle the emergency. And so the town vehicles were called in. It was very disruptive to the neighborhood.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you so much. Anyone else like to speak? Mary?
Mary White, Summer Lane. This is Tom White. He's going to give me his 3 minutes in case my 3 minutes runs out.
Mary White, Summer Lane. The approval of this amendment would be destructive for the town, in my opinion. Residential care homes would pop up all over the place in neighborhoods with R40 zone parcels. They would destroy R40 zone neighborhoods by forever destroying the character and peace and quiet they have now. They would forever change the way residents enjoy their peaceful neighborhoods. If this amendment passes, residential care homes of an endless amount will be coming fast and furious to R40 zone parcels and neighborhoods. This affects the whole town. Other developers will be coming, and they can if this amendment passes. They only need 40,000 square feet, which equals 1 acre. The larger the R40 parcel equals more people. 2 acres, 16 people. A 5-acre R40 parcel is 40 people. A 10-acre R40 parcel is 80 people. This is allowing commercial business in an R40 zone. We must look at the impact on neighborhoods in the entire town. This will bring up ambulances, fire engines, and stretchers all the time at all hours. Residents, people who go to sleep will be woken up by ambulances. They won't be able to sleep. People's health will be destroyed. People have a right to sleep. They have a right to peace. People have a right to enjoy their peaceful neighborhood. There will be no more peace. Peace will be destroyed. With the increased traffic from employees working at this commercial business will interfere with residents riding bikes, walking, jogging, running, walking dogs, and children playing. This would strain emergency services even more than they are now. R40 zone neighborhoods are located the furthest from the center of town. R40 zone neighborhoods are not walkable to the center of town. R40 zone neighborhoods are located the furthest from town services, amenities, and emergency services. With these residential care homes popping up all over town, there will be a need for emergency services. Fire suppression emergencies will rely on mutual aid resources, which have extended travel times. They are using this amendment to make money. They are not helping seniors in town stay in their homes. Every person in residential care homes, they get paid for them. They are making a profit. This is about profit. We are just finishing up budget season. The seniors in town, they want to stay in their homes. I attended finance meetings, budget hearings, budget meetings. People spoke, seniors spoke. Seniors, along with other residents, were concerned about the increase in taxes on their homes. Not one senior or person said, my goal, my need, is to live in a residential care home. I have never heard a senior or anyone in town make that statement. This project is about lining pockets. This amendment is the way they will do it. People's health and welfare are more important than profits. The Planning and Zoning Commission is responsible for planning, development, zoning regulations, regulating development in town, and for making sure overdevelopment does not take place and uses out of character with neighborhoods do not take place. They are responsible for protecting the peace and character of residential neighborhoods. But most important, the Planning and Zoning Commission is responsible for protecting the public's health, safety, and welfare. Regarding regulations, the Planning and Zoning Commission must first consider and protect the public's health, safety, and welfare per State of Connecticut, Chapter 124, Zoning, Section 8-2, Regulations A, which reads in part, Planning and Zoning Commission designate subject to the standards set forth in the regulations and to conditions necessary to protect the public health, safety, convenience, and property values. Such regulations shall be designed to lessen congestion in the streets, to secure safety from fire, panic, flood, and other dangers, to promote health and the general welfare, to provide adequate light and air, to prevent the overcrowding of land, to avoid undue concentration of population, and to facilitate the adequate provision of transportation, water, sewerage, schools, parks, and other public requirements. In my opinion, the public's health will be destroyed as they suffer irreparably because they will no longer be able to sleep. They will no longer have peace. The character and peace of R40 neighborhoods will be destroyed with residential care homes popping up all over town on 40,000 square foot, 1 acre parcels or larger. The way the residents enjoy their peaceful neighborhoods will be forever changed. The commercial use will forever negatively change the neighborhoods throughout town. Please protect the character and peace of neighborhoods. Please protect people's peace. And please protect the public's health, safety, and welfare. Please deny this amendment.
Thank you, Mary. Anyone else like to speak?
We'll mark this
Come ahead.
Exhibit 1, please.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Tom. I'll get that to the agenda.
Lana?
Good evening, Commission. My name is Lana Claire Ives. I reside at 369 Mansfield Road, 367 Mansfield Road, 371 Mansfield Road, and 2605 Ridge Road, all in the town of North Haven. I would encourage the Commission to look very closely at this. This can affect everything in town as we know it. And that is a big deal, because I didn't even know this was here. Mary White, a wonderful resident, contacted me and said, "Did you know this was happening?" And I said, "Well, who's doing this?" "Oh, the lawyer for the cannabis shop is doing it." I said, "Oh, okay, that makes sense." So that application is I believe that attorney that's representing this change of zoning regulations has sued the town of North Haven. That means all of us, because they didn't feel as if it was appropriate to put a cannabis shop across the street from a school, which it clearly listed in the zoning regulations that, yeah, that wasn't appropriate. So, you know, sometimes we have to take our licks and move on. There's been plenty of times where I've come and said I didn't think something was appropriate, and, you know, it voted the other way. So let's move on here. This is a big deal. This is not appropriate for the space that they're wanting to put it in. This is not appropriate. I understand it's about a mile distance from Ben Haven, okay? But that's a whole different setup. That is a whole and complete different setup. This could be anywhere, next to anyone. And as the planning and zoning, we need to be careful what we do in this town to keep it beautiful. Just like we need to preserve land. We need places that are quiet and peaceful. And we need neighbors protected. And as Mary mentioned in the very purpose of the zoning regulations, I'm not going to read it again for you, but I did have it pulled up on my phone. But she beat me to the punch with that one. So you don't get to listen to that twice, and that's probably perfectly fine with you. But I would really encourage you to say, no, this is not a good deal. This is not what the town wants, because nobody really knows that this is here and this is happening. And I think if people all around town in R40 zones knew that this was going on, you'd have to move this back over to the Wakely Rec Center so we can really, really have a conversation about this. Because trust me, half of the population, or more than half of the population, I would say probably 80% in my educated guess, are going to say, bye-bye, no way. So anyway, you represent those 80%, 100%, whatever. And if you wanted to do something, just on a side note, to have people come and stay in the town that have lived here all their life, that's fine. Hampton did something years ago. They call it a circuit breaker. So if you're over the age of 65 retirement years, they put a circuit breaker on your house. Doesn't mean you didn't have to pay taxes. You still have to pay the tax. But I believe what they did there was they made it so that you didn't get an increase in your tax. And when you get an increase in your tax on a fixed income or on your retirement income, that's a big deal. Hampton's having a lot of trouble right now because they want to increase $3,000 for an average home in the town. Well, when you're on a fixed income, that's a lot of money. Okay? So anyway, I would encourage you to deny this change of zoning regulations. It's really not necessary. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Lon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else like to speak? Now's your time.
Tom, she used it.
Tom, you gave it up. Okay.
Come on, you're here. Get up. Just say you don't.
Is there anybody else like to speak before Amy gets in here? She's gonna address anything you folks had to say. Come on.
Please.
My name
Sure.
is Michael Farrar. I'm right next door to this house.
Okay.
I've lived here for 29 years.
Mike Farrar.
This is directly gonna affect me because I have my 95-year-old mother there. Okay? I can't just imagine an ambulance or a fire truck at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning disrupting my mother that I've taken care of. Okay? So, and it's an embarrassment that that person is not here tonight to represent herself. So thank you.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Mike.
you.
Thank you, Mike. Anyone else? Get your anger out.
Well, Tom, you already used the.
Now use your time up, Tom. I'm gonna give you a shot, Tom. All right. No, Alan, will you not? This is your last word, not that one.
He wants to go home early.
Let me get this out.
Talk on here?
Speak up, speaking to the two. You'll be
Speaking to
fine.
both of them? Okay.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, or good evening. Thank you very much for meeting with us tonight. My name is Angela Farrar, and I'm at 15 Longview Drive with Michael. I just want you to know that we were the first house on this block. We have, as our neighborhood has grown, we are all the original owners of each of our homes. We got married, we moved into our homes, we had our children have grown together. We're a family. We are 9 houses in this neighborhood, and we have just all grown together. We are always there for each other. We have each other's backs. We're always getting together. We are a very quiet neighborhood. And the disruption that would occur into our quiet neighborhood with the traffic, with ambulances, with workers coming up and down the street, it's going to ruin the whole character of our beautiful neighborhood that we have grown from scratch. I mean, we're all the original owners. We had to fight to get our mail delivered to our homes. We had to fight to get our garbage picked up. We had to bring it to the end of the street. We had to fight for our children for the bus to come down. And now here we are. I'm in my home in about a week or two for 29 years. And I'm fighting for this. I'm fighting for peace, for our environment, for our home, for our families. I just really hope that you take in consideration that this neighborhood is, it's a dream for anybody who comes there. And we all love it. We all love each other. We're a family.
Good enough.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay. Anyone else? Anyone else before we shut this off? Tom?
Tom White, Summer Lane. The commissioner, the applicant's attorney's non-answer to Commissioner Williams and Commissioner Quick's specific questions is deeply alarming. I'm vehemently opposed to this project. It would effectively destroy the quality of life in any residential zone we have here. I urge the commissioners to deny this application.
Okay, Tom, thank you so much. Come on.
My name is Ann Clark, C-L-A-R-K, 27 Bowling Green Drive, North Haven. As Lana said, I wouldn't have known this was going on tonight either. I was here for something else altogether. And unfortunately, Vern, you let this go on long enough for me to stand up and speak. It makes me really nervous to think about a zone change that will affect the entire town. And as Lana said, I think that if more people in the town knew this was happening tonight, you'd have a much larger group. And I think it's fortunate that the address of this location was actually in the application. Otherwise, the room probably would have been empty. So I know that you are a very careful board. I have every confidence that you will do the right thing, but I just wanted to put my 2 cents worth in. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ann. Anyone else get their nerve up?
Hi, Kathy Farrelly, 30 State Street. F as in Frank, A-R-R, F-A-R-R-E-L-L-Y. Thank you, Kathy, 30 State Street. I'm also here for a different issue, but I'm glad I came.
Let's go. You got 3 minutes.
Okay, my 3 minutes are gonna be quick. To change this zoning is way too broad. It's way too scary what could happen in the future, and I hope that the board will agree with me that this can't be passed.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay. Is that it?
That's it.
Very good, lady.
Good job.
Alan? Anything?
I
Amy?
think it's time for Amy to speak.
So I've sat through a lot of public comment over the course of my career. It's certainly impassioned, and I recognize that this is something that's very meaningful and impactful potentially to the neighborhood's perception of what's going to happen. Unfortunately, for the application before you, most of it's irrelevant. The application before you, as discussed, is a text amendment to the zoning regulations. It is not specific to Longview. It is not specific to any particular property in the town of North Haven. It is a regulation that applies throughout the town. And I think what you heard a lot of were sort of 2 things. Number one, a profit motive, which is also outside of the scope of your jurisdiction, regardless of whether it's a zoning application for a regulation amendment or for a specific special permit, site plan, et cetera. And then you also heard a lot about the impact on the character of the neighborhood. I think, as you all know from your ongoing training and everything else, character of the neighborhood was deemed an illegal consideration as a result of changes to the zoning regulations about 3 years ago now. So I think while you hear about, the impact to the character, and I understand that that's something that is easily tangible to residents, to the population, it is not, again, in your jurisdiction. I think what is within your jurisdiction, though, is not only what was in our memo, but I just wanted to quote from your Plan of Conservation and Development, page 11. The goal is to ensure a variety of housing options for all segments of North Haven's population. And 2 of those strategies are relevant to this text amendment. Encourage assisted living homes and non-traditional housing options, including continuing care residential communities. And under this residential care provision, it could, in fact, this is an opportunity to provide housing for someone at the end as they grow more senior. It's not necessarily limited to a younger disabled person. It does have the opportunity under the provisions to provide that option for older citizens, and then also evaluate the creation of additional housing units, public and or private, for the elderly and disabled. And again, consistent with what we've shown, I think the regulation before you accomplishes both of those goals. I think, again, there was a comment about the appropriateness of the memorandum and some allegations about either our client or the purpose of this application. I think it's straightforward. Obviously, anything that is, whether I was here representing Fine Federal a year ago, and we do. We have an appeal. I think all of you know that. That is within my client's legal rights. The fact that my partner represented another applicant in another town, completely irrelevant to this application. And so I would direct you back to the memorandum that outlines why we believe this is appropriate under the Fair Housing Act, why we think it's appropriate under the Americans with Disabilities Act, and to Mr. Williams' question before about why we think that's the appropriate solution to do it this way. And then again, just to both the commission members and to the public, if this regulation is adopted, it does still require a special permit, which at that point would get into all of the site-specific considerations, as you know, whether it's traffic, impact on the neighborhood, other services, engineering comments, and the like. All of that would come up in the context of the special permit. So with that, I have nothing further. Happy to answer any other questions you might have.
No? Amy, that's well said. Anything,
And
anything,
nothing
staff?
further. No.
Commission? Commission? Any questions at this point?
No questions.
Okay. Rod? No. Okay. Okay, Amy.
Thank you.
Does look like good. Thank you very much. Okay.
Are you intending to close the application?
I intend to close the public hearing right now. Okay. That winds it up, folks. This public hearing is closed. You can all go home now. So we'll take a 10-minute break, 15-minute break while the place clears out. Okay, folks, we're back from our break, and the room is cleared out, and we're ready to continue along with with our normal agenda now. Okay, we're gonna move on now to where are we here? Let's see.
Number three.
Number three, okay. Would you please read the call in? This is a special permit under public hearing. Brian, would you please read this in?
Sure, I will. This is P 25-12S. Special permit application, certificate of location as authorized by section 8.10.1 of Tom Glengale, applicant Elm City Manufacturing Jewelers Incorporated, owner relative to 2001 Whitney Avenue, map 33, lot 11, plan entitled the As-Built Survey Map, Market Square Associates, number 1995, number 2001, number 2003, number 2005, Whitney Avenue, North Haven, Connecticut, prepared by Gordon Villages, PE and LS, dated November 1st, 2001, revised September 22nd, 2006, scale 1 inch equals 20 feet, CN 20 zoning district.
Brian, one correction, you read it, is it not a lot 11, it's lot 18.
Lot 18, thank you.
Okay, is there someone here for this application? Steve, come forward. Pick up, speak into them both, please.
I was listening.
Okay.
So good evening, everyone. My name is Linda Lengyel. Yes, I would like to open a small restaurant, 995 Whitney Avenue, which previously was a restaurant and was approved for a restaurant. We do not, I do not change anything. What I did, it was painting, repainting everything, and deep cleanings.
Okay. And is this right on the corner or just?
It's right on the corner, yes.
Yeah.
This used to be Taste, and there
There's
was
several
a
different
steakhouse,
years.
Pippin's,
Yeah,
for the last
lately I heard it was
40
a lot of
years,
thing
it's been a
before,
restaurant.
Yeah.
Restaurant that
So-
served
Yeah.
liquor. so.
Trying.
So basically, you're looking for the liquor permit for the.
Exactly. It's gonna be a full-service restaurant, including the liquor permit.
Okay.
Now, I'm not gonna be here anymore.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna just say,
Say it now.
the reason that this is here
Okay.
is because it's a new restaurant. It's in the same spot. They don't need a change of use. It's restaurant to restaurant.
Yeah.
But they didn't purchase the other restaurant. Therefore, it's a new liquor permit. It's a new restaurant for that purpose. If they were just gonna buy the other restaurant and change the name, they wouldn't be here. Okay? So
Yeah.
that's the way the regs are phrased.
Okay.
That's why she's here, but there's nothing more to it than that.
I understand.
permits are transferable?
I'm sorry?
Liquor permits in restaurants are transferable?
If you buy the restaurant, yeah, you can transfer it and you can change the name.
Okay.
If you can square that with the liquor commission. And you'll be pre-squared here. But
Does that take the whole first floor there, in that building? Are you taking the whole first floor?
No, I believe there is a hair salon next to it and something else, beauty salon.
Yeah.
No,
Well, where
it's
you
not.
want to be, you're on the
This is just
corner, you're on
part-
the very corner.
It's a
yeah.
corner,
Yeah.
a corner, yes.
60 years ago, that was the Normandy, I think it was.
That was not here.
That was a long time ago. That was in my. I
Before
would
the
say,
roads were
in my younger
paved, I
days.
think.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very young. I was about 16 years old.
And he would like those
But anyway,
prices too.
anyway.
George Washington.
And what was the drinking age,
any
Mr.
questions?
Carlson?
I have no questions.
No, no question.
No question.
No, we're good.
Good enough.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah.
Public hearing.
And you're gonna ask for public comment?
Yeah.
Right? Sorry.
Yeah.
Is there anybody like to speak in opposition to this? Anyone like to speak in favor? Hearing none? We close this public hearing. Okay. Brian, would you read the call of P25-14S?
Okay, this is P number 25-14S. Special permit application for North Haven Bar Properties LLC, applicant and owner relative to 31 State Street, map 66, lot 81, plan entitled Proposed Elderly Housing, 31 State Street, North Haven, Connecticut, prepared by Godfrey Hoffman Hodge LLC, dated 1/24/2025, scale 1 inch equals 20 feet, R20 zoning district. That's a good question. Would you like to?
Yes, you will be taking this with the site plan
Yeah, well, you know,
as well.
yeah, I was thinking about something else, I guess. Yeah, we take the site plan with this. We'll take number 9, which is P25-14. We'll be taking it with it, Brian.
Okay.
Whatever. I read that in there?
Okay, I'll read it in. This is P 25-14, site plan application of North Haven Bar Properties LLC, applicant and owner relative to 31 State Street, map 66, lot 81, plan entitled Proposed Elderly Housing, 31 State Street, North Haven, Connecticut, prepared by Godfrey Hoffman Hodge LLC, dated 1/24/2025, revised 4/29/2025, scale 1 inch equals 20 feet, R20 zoning district.
Okay, thank you, Brian. You're welcome. Go ahead, Bernie. Floor is yours.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, for the record, my name is Bernard Pellegrino. I'm an attorney with the Pellegrino Law Firm in New Haven. I represent the owner and applicant, North Haven Bar Properties LLC, and Luciana Barbera, who's principal of North Haven Bar, is here with me this evening. He's a resident of the town. And Marcus Potic, who is our civil engineer with Godfrey Hoffman Hodge, is also with me. You'll hear from Marcus in a few moments. So we're here tonight to discuss the property located at 31 State Street, right around the corner. You're all, I'm sure, familiar with the property. It's just off of the intersection of Broadway and State, just to the north, second property north of the intersection. Presently improved with a 2-story mixed-use building. There's 3 units on the residential units on the second floor. There's 1 residential unit on the first floor, and there's about 1,500 feet of vacant commercial space. But you see the storefront as you drive by, and as you've driven by for the past 50 years. There's been a storefront there. Sometimes it's occupied, sometimes it's been vacant. Our client acquired the property a few years ago, looking at different options to redevelop. And by the way, the site's 14,250 square feet, and it's in the R20 zone. I looked at various options for redevelopment. It's a difficult retail commercial space to really work with there. So the option that we've come up with very similar to what happened next door a number of years ago, is to convert the building under section, get it all out. 2.1.1.5 parenthetical M permits the adaptive reuse of and conversion of the property in the zone to elderly housing units for persons 55 years and older. So the plan would be to convert the existing 1,500, approximately 1,500 square feet of commercial space into two residential units, 2-bedroom and a 1-bedroom. The existing 4 units of residential would remain residential and would convert to elderly as, two of the existing units already have tenants which are 55 and older. So of the existing 4 units, 2 are already occupied by qualifying residents because of their age. And 2 remaining units would turn over as those properties become available for rent, then the new renters would be 55 and older. The building footprint won't change. The existing building footprint would remain. Most of the work would be done interior of the building to reconfigure that commercial space into 2 residential units. The exterior of the building, however, would be upgraded to try to bring back the classical use and look of the building. Some of that work has already begun. I brought some photos I'll give you. Included in the application.
Yep, they're there.
Okay, so you have the, and this is the one we hope to achieve, which is the older one, which shows the full patio with the trellising. That would be a deck in the front of the building. There's also the second one, which is, kind of similar, but that one shows obviously the old storefront with the canned potatoes in the window there.
I think the potatoes are still there.
In addition to the special permit, we've filed a site plan application, again, primarily to reconfigure and add some parking spaces, some road, some driveway and improvements in that area. And I'll have Marcus walk you through the site plan in a moment. So that's kind of the intro, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have before I turn it to Marcus. All right.
What about the traffic flow there, Bertie?
Well, Marcus will walk you
Okay.
through that in a minute. Okay, thank you.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Marcus Puttock, Puttock. Land surveyor and civil engineer at Godfrey Hoffman Hodge. An address at 26 Broadway here in North Haven. As Attorney Pellegrino mentioned, the footprint of the building is supposed to stay the same. The interior space of some of the front porch may become exterior space again and be renovated back to its historical appearance. But the main building footprint remains untouched. We right now, existing, have 2 driveways on our property off of State Street, one to the north of the building and one to the south of the building. We've proposed that the southerly driveway be a one-way in. The driveway to the north of our building is shared with the adjacent parcel. Most of the driveway is on our parcel. There is a few feet of their driveway that's on their parcel, which we do not have an easement to, but we do have enough room to bring our cars as an exit only on our side of our driveway. We are proposing to achieve the 6 spaces that would be required for 6 units in elderly housing, to expand the width of the driveway on the southerly side of our existing driveway to add 3 spaces, which will necessitate the removal of one of the 3 large trees that go down that property line. The large tree in the front, up near the street line, is actually out in the street and will not be removed. It will remain, it's not on our property. And then there's another larger tree in the rear, which also is on our property and isn't shown in our survey because it's far enough off of our property. The surveyor couldn't locate it. So there's just the 1 tree of the 3 going down that side of the property. As you look, that's coming out, and it's the one that's closest to the building and needs to be removed because it's very, very close to the driveway anyway, even if we weren't adding parking. We do propose adding a tree at the end of the parking aisle and adding an additional tree at the end of our parking aisle in the back where there is a concrete area which is heavily decayed, which we will remove and replace with just regular asphalt at essentially the same grade. So no grading changes there. We may have to slope it off a little bit, but we do have room before we get to the property line to create a gentle slope. The Wetlands Commission asked that we add some plantings along the north side of that parking area as a buffer between our property and the adjacent property, and we will agree to do that. They are not shown on the plan, but that is a revision we are willing to make as a condition of the Wetland Commission's approval. Apart from that, we intend to, as you enter the main driveway going out, for our residents, we intend to add a stop sign and a stop bar that sort of guides them to understand that they need to stop and make sure there isn't somebody coming from the adjacent parking lot. Obviously, once you live there, you'll know that. There's people that live here now and they've never had any issues with the neighbor and driving. We're really adding 2 residential units, so 2 cars to the existing site that has 4. And we really feel that this is a tremendous reduction in what would be required for parking and access to the site if it was a commercial use, which it is already approved to be. So we feel this is a great improvement to the site. That's really it. We did not propose your town engineer, Andy, one of his comments was about additional impervious area and not providing storage for the additional stormwater. And given the slope of the driveways on both sides and the lower portion of the property being below the floodplain, we can't and weren't going to add any drainage at the lower end. So we do believe we'll make the additional parking an impervious or a pervious surface, so that water goes straight through it, so that we don't have any additional impervious surface on the site to deal with stormwater. I believe that's the best solution to creating a net zero increase in stormwater.
Would that create a net zero increase by making the additional parking spaces pervious?
Yes.
Okay.
Certainly could, yes, because we could create storage below so that water can get into it and be stored.
Okay, and that's not, there's no like low water table? I mean, it seems like it's really close to the river. Would that...
It is very close to the river, and the water comes up. So these would be up on the slope of the,
okay.
So not down at the bottom. There's
Okay.
not a lot we could do down at the bottom that would not get inundated by floodwaters from time to time.
So
looks like, I'm sorry.
were you suggesting underground storage for that water, or were you just?
It's just the stone below the
Okay, so
parking.
okay, so it'll percolate through.
Yeah, so it just
Okay.
works
Do you what material were you thinking for that pervious for the parking?
It'd be a permeable paver.
Okay.
Yeah, an actual paver that allows water to go through both
Yeah.
the cracks and the paver itself.
I didn't know if you meant that or just like gravel or something.
No.
Now, I don't think it was last month, but I think it was the month before. we had a lot of discussion about required parking and whether it could be pervious
Or impervious. right.
impervious. I guess it's time to have that dialogue again.
Well, we're gonna need it right now, I guess.
Well, it's a hard surface, because you require a hard surface, so if it's a concrete paver, that's a hard surface.
I think required paving, required parking is supposed to be paved with 3 inches of asphalt. So,
Does the regulation say that?
yeah, I think it does, and,
Okay.
but that's what they've
ruled
been
on
proceeding
this,
on,
apps.
and such, but is it, the issue to you would just be the storage, correct? Not necessarily drainage flow or anything like that, right?
It's both, so adding an impervious surface requires us to capture it and put it somewhere, and putting it below the water table and below the 100-year flood doesn't really make any sense to me whatsoever.
Well, I'm not worried about the 100-year flood because
Right.
you're protecting for storms it'll happen way more frequently than that. That's the primary reason why you're doing that infiltration. I'm not a big fan of pervious pavement. I have seen it fail miserably in numerous locations. It's something that has to be maintained all the time. And unless the applicant is willing to agree that they're gonna, vacuum this thing out on a regular basis and maintain it, to me, that's why I've never pushed pervious pavement as an option.
So,
We could put a drywall.
I mean, yeah, I think a drywall is a better solution for that.
yeah, Andy, I was just gonna ask you, what do you see?
Yeah, I would say a series of galleries or a drywall would be perfectly fine. And granted, in a 100-year storm, it's gonna flood and it's not gonna function, but that's not why you're putting it in. You're putting it in for the more frequent storms, to provide that capture.
Would you have one galley or
What's that?
one?
Well, a gallery sized for 1.3 inches over that area, that's all. That's what we always require, so.
Bernie? Yeah,
We're agreeable to that.
yeah, you are agreeable, yeah. What about the soil?
We'd have to test
Even
the
if-
soil.
Yeah, you gotta test the soils. Yeah.
Okay.
And obviously, if the soils come back and they're not permeable, then that goes away. And that's, we asked you to do whatever you can do practically on the site.
No.
So it's-
It looks like you're within you're inside the buffer, the 50-foot buffer there already?
The wetland buffer, yes.
Yeah. Is there any type of documentation on allowing that?
We went to the wetlands.
Wetlands Commission approved it, yeah.
We didn't-
All right.
yeah.
Yeah, they've got a positive referral and a permit to conduct regulated
Okay.
activities.
Yeah.
No, that's all right.
One of Marcus, one of Andy's comments, comment 3, occupation of the lower level is prohibited. That is the lower level as you go down the driveway that is on the south side with that brick door. There, that's that lower level. That's not-
Correct.
That's not the street level.
Correct, yeah, the lower level is the lower level of the building coming out the back.
Just want to make
Correct.
sure. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And there's no occupation.
And also, one other thing is signage, in one of Andy's comments. And one of the things I noticed is when you take the right off of Broadway and you go down, you head north, that driveway comes up real quick. So there's gonna be some signage that says enter only and then around the back.
This driveway?
Yeah,
The southerly driveway?
Southerly,
front,
right.
The one closest to Broadway?
yeah, yeah.
Yes, we can add a sign that says.
And then
entrance
exit only on the other ones because
Yeah.
that driveway does come up quick and you have people on your bunker, on your bumper when you're trying to get in there, and that would be helpful.
Now, the driveway exists.
Yes.
I've been down a couple times, and
Yeah.
is that utilized? I mean, it's gotta be utilized by somebody, but,
It would appear to me that people enter that way and exit the other side. Just the way my brain works, that's how the few times I've been to the site, that's what I did.
yeah, I went in
Yeah,
that way,
so it's just what makes sense to me.
Is everything agreeable on the traffic flow there? The one way on one side?
Yeah, traffic flow is, that's agreeable, and as Marcus mentioned, we're gonna put a stop bar and a stop sign.
Right, I did see
where-
that, yeah, I did see that. I just wanna make sure it's agreeable with next door there?
Well, so they still, their traffic is two-way along
I
this
know
piece
that.
of the
That's
driveway.
what I'm
And it still
questioning
will
that.
be, but, we'll just have to.
That little strip
We're
has to
gonna-
be two-way,
yeah.
because that's the only way in or out for
I
Mr.
understand.
Nugent's property.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're flowing right into Nugent there, so it's two properties. It's working okay, I mean,
Yeah,
everything's
it's,
agreeable.
it's working now, and we
Yeah.
think it'll continue to work.
It's only,
We're adding two cars.
yeah, it's two cars.
Andy has suggested that we add a portion of our driveway, which is not within the 10-foot right-of-way that the property, our property gives to the Nugent property. There's about 3 feet between where the description of the easement is and the building, which is driveway, and we're okay with that.
I mean, as long as both properties agree and everything operates
Right.
fine, I have no problem with it at all. My concern is let's say the property next door sells,
Yeah.
and the owner there decides he's gonna put a fence right along his property line, that's gonna mess up all the driveway access through there.
Well,
So,
we'll talk to
you know,
Mr.
But I
Nugent.
think,
Yeah, I mean, that's all. I mean, I think the smartest solution is to come to some sort of terms with them so that you can all use it together. And that's the way it's being used now, that's the way it should be used. But that's not the way the easement works right now, and that's the concern I have.
you're gonna draw up some legal documents as far as what he's just talking about.
Well, if we agree, we would have to.
You need to do something with Nugent, so if something did happen like that, which is very likely, it could be sold.
Yeah.
And then there could be something else come out.
Mark, it's just a question, this really doesn't have much to do with this, but on your map there, it says Quinnipiac River, and below it in parentheses, it says tidal river. And you went to inland wetlands for this.
Yep.
Why isn't that CAM? Why coastal area management, even though it's that far in, I mean, is that?
It's on top.
It's out of the CAM zone.
Yeah,
That's all I can say.
Quinnipiac River's not titled at that point.
There's a line and
It's-
somebody drew it
it's
and
not-
deep and it's
Yeah,
out of it.
it is still considered tidal. It does have a tidal elevation in the tidal epoch or whatever it's called, according to the surveyors. And Cal's pretty good at that stuff, so I think it is, but that's what he told me. You don't think so?
No, absolutely not. No,
Okay.
tidal waters stop at Second Point Road.
Okay.
So, and that's where the tidal control sort of wanes a little bit as it heads a little further north. By the time you get here, this is all inland flows.
Okay.
So,
The other issue would be,
It says
let's
that has
say,
my surveyors wrong.
let's say the CAM zone extended up that high, would it actually meet one of the exemptions for site work because they're not adding on to the building? And in all likelihood, I would have exempted it out because it's just site work and it wouldn't be any grading, per se, so.
And I just wanted to confirm, it is connected to city sewer?
Yes. Yeah, so all city utilities.
Yep.
Anything else from the commission?
I got a couple questions.
Sure, go ahead, Rock.
So there's a note in Andy's comments regarding, if this renovation exceeds 50% of the building value, then you have to bring the whole thing up to flood code. Do you anticipate that that's going to have any effect on the historic work that you do outside? Are you going to be close to that, or?
I don't think so.
Okay. Because it was such a nice thing to see in Jim Giletti's old building that he brought back historic elements.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a nice.
Is that what we're trying to get to,
Element
what
of
they
it.
did with Ken's building?
Well, I think so. A lot of that, on this building, there's still remnants of some of that. But they certainly did an exquisite job.
Yeah, that was, yeah. I have a question that maybe is best for Alan. You made a note about a 12-inch fir tree on the south side. Is there any significance to that?
Marcus is saying that it's off the property,
Yeah.
which would mean that it will remain.
It's 12 inches though. Does it mean 12 feet or is it actually 12?
No, it's a
or
12-inch caliper
Caliper, okay,
tree.
sorry. I was thinking height. Got it, okay.
Let's just, if we can just go back for a moment with Marcus's comment.
Yeah.
Marcus is looking at 8.5.1.9, surfacing protection at streets. So section 1 to that says all adequate all-weather surfacing. I'm citing section 2, which says clearly non-residential development. So you have a parking lot that was for a partially commercial structure to be converted. I also consider residential to mean, it doesn't say this, single-family residential, not multifamily. So if Mr. Vigliotti is doing 300 units, or let's say 120, it's going to be 3 inches of asphalt. So they're ebbing gently into multifamily, at this point. It is what you want it to be, is what I would say at this point. So again, there's a way to do it. You're talking to your town engineer whose preference has been held, but you could certainly make an Marcus's argument that it's applicable only to non-residential. This would be changing to residential, albeit residential multifamily, which Marcus will tell you is clearly black and white, and I'll tell you you're venturing into, let's just say, a gray area, if you will.
Yeah.
So
We're agreeable to paving it and putting a dry well.
Right.
So
We gotta figure this out before we get a
Yeah.
motion on it.
I think
I don't
we're
wanna have
agreeable to
I don't
paving
wanna
it
mention
and
all this stuff in a motion, so.
We can go either way, but,
paving it with a dry well is fine.
Yeah.
Which is what the town work engineer would prefer.
That's what you would prefer, so.
Yeah, oh,
Yeah.
That's what-
We're agreeable to that.
You good to go?
We are.
Okay.
And Rod, just to follow up on your question about occupancy in the bottom level and what's got to be done there, even if it went over 50%, they would just have a little additional work to do down there. So they need to put flood vents in.
Oh, okay.
And, probably if there's sheetrock down there, rip that out, and so it's not something that would be prohibitive of this development moving forward.
Yeah.
It just might
We
mean that
wouldn't
you
have to
need to
jack
do a
it
little
up.
bit more work. That's all.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was wondering, if it was below the flood.
No, we
Nope,
wouldn't have
that's
to, the first floor is well above the.
Okay, I'm good.
floodplain.
Thanks.
Rod, you got anything else on this? Ken?
No, just thanks for bringing in a creative solution. I love the beautification component of this, and the creativeness of changing from the commercial to residential is great.
Yeah, I think it extends from what Mr. Nugent did to our property and what they did at the, right next door to Marcus' building. Nice to see.
I appreciate it.
Carrie, you got anything to add here?
Nope, I'm all set.
Okay, good enough. How about Paul?
No, I'm good.
Brian? I'm good. Mark?
But Vern, just to further muddy the
Yeah,
flood waters.
Well, this one here is kind of muddy, huh?
We're gonna hear from the public in a moment, and we'll see what they say. Just to remind everyone, this is zoned R40, R20. So it's a residential zoning district. In the past, we've had the neighbors completely up in arms opposed to extending the commercial zone any farther. And I think they're in agreement on that. As an alternative, we'll hear Mr. Nugent is here, the property owner of 5 of the lots within that block are here, and we can hear what folks have to say. But I think Steve Nugent's project is a very good project in there, and I think it's of a scale that was acceptable to the neighbors. And it seems that it has fit in fairly well, and it did preserve a historic building. They're really seeking to extend that.
Well, right, it's exactly it, to extend. what
And you have
Nugent started
discretion
To make that flow right
to do
across
that.
it, I think, but we'll hear from them and see what they have to say about it. But if you could ever point the commissioner.
Sure.
Okay, we're gonna try this.
Yeah, I'll sit back.
All in favor? All in,
You want to hear from the public?
all in favor of this project Has anybody want to speak in favor of it? Okay, Ann. This is in favor, Ann.
Yeah, well,
All right.
I can go.
She's looking for a new apartment.
It happens, I guess.
Okay, again, Ann Clark, 27 Bowling Green Drive. I will say that Lucian came and visited us at the Historical Society, and I'm wearing my Historical Society hat at the moment.
You certainly are.
And for those of you who do not know, that little section of State Street is the only historic district in North Haven. Now, that doesn't mean anything really, except that there's not much of North Haven that's declared historic. The building that Lucian is dealing with right now the front of that building has been empty for a long time, but we've all known it was a store. And it has been a store since it was the Pierpont store. And that, Jane and I were just talking about this, I'm very bad with numbers, so I'm not even gonna try to tell you, but I know it's at least 150 years old. And we still, in the lower level of the Historical Society, have the display case from the Pierpont store. My concern is, and I'm sure this has been considered, I don't know what the front of the building is gonna look like now. And I am concerned about that. I would like to know what it's gonna look like. I see the floor plan, but it's the exterior that I'm interested in. And so I'm very happy that something good is happening to the building. I'm very happy somebody hasn't come in and decided to knock it down. But from a historic point,
You know, with the people that are involved with this, I don't mean to interrupt you, you know.
well, I'll just talk over you.
He looks pretty close after his building over there, keeps him pretty well.
Oh, yeah, well, Steve
Yeah,
is on our
but now
historic
this is gonna be
board.
right attached to it, just about, so we'll see what
Well,
he has to say.
it's different, and I'd like
Yeah.
it to remain historic
Okay.
looking. And Lucian, I know where you live, so if I'm not happy with it, I know where to find you. So I just want the board to be aware that this is a historic district. We would like to see it remain historically fairly
I
accurate
would
as
hope
much
that we
as you
would
can.
respect everything you have to
Yeah,
say.
okay. All right, so I'm not against.
Okay.
I just want to be sure it's good.
Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you, man. Anyone else like to speak in favor of this? Please go ahead, sir.
Both,
please.
Good evening, Steve Nugent, Historic Society member of the board and also owner of 29 State Street. I'm speaking in favor of it because they made reference to the ex-Giletti building. They're showing photographs of what was there. It's a long way from what you intend to do and what will be executed, but I have faith that they will try to achieve the best that they can. And I say that because the only way these things happen is that because we don't have a local historic district that regulates this, or even a village district that regulates any type of design criteria, it's up to the owners of the building. And he's no novice in the real estate industry, so I am also encouraged that the better the building looks, the architecture adds value, and thus all ships rise if he does a good job. But saying that, I have a few questions. Besides just what the siding will be and what the details will be, where will the AC, if there is even HVAC in the building, where will the condensers go? I'm assuming they're not going to go on the north side because that's the shared driveway. I don't know if there's any ZBA conditions that were put on the application. I didn't see it in here. And also exterior lighting. I'm hoping that there is no exterior lighting on the north side for the driveway. It seems to be working fine now. And since the driveway was a bit of a discussion earlier, we have yet to have any issues with the neighbors and our occupants having difficulty with that double lane driveway on the north side. We were not required to put a stop bar or a stop sign, but I had added one in addition to a pedestrian crossing sign, only it was a little further south from, or rather closer further from the sidewalk than maybe it could have been. So if a sign is required, I would hope it could be right adjacent to the sidewalk so that it doesn't interfere with lawn cutting, because that is my property there. And if it becomes my cost, I understand that, but I just.
Steve, they certainly want to do this thing right. Seems they're going to be right next to you, working with you, for God's sakes.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
I
no,
don't see any problem with
I'm
that.
looking forward to being good neighbors as we
Right.
sort of are now.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
so,
Okay.
so that's the stop bar or the stop sign, and the pavement marking is a very good suggestion. The only other one, and I also agree with, is Andy's suggestion number 4 about some kind of agreement, as you brought up. So I'm looking forward to working with them after they get their final approvals. We currently have, and only will have, 5 dwelling units, 7 bedrooms, and that's where we are now. But thank you for the compliments also.
Steve,
Oh,
while you're up there, if the easement is 10 feet, it's entirely on Mr. Barbro's property. If I can ask you this, they've got another 3.5 to 4 feet on their side that they are willing to throw in the mix, so to speak, to increase the width of that easement. You've got another 3.5 to 4 feet on your side. Do you have a conceptual thought on whether you're willing to widen that or agree to, assuming that all other issues can be resolved, but is that something that you think would be of value to you to pick up another, little bit of width over to the edge of their building?
Yeah, I mean, I will consider it. It's the first I've heard of it. I appreciate the map that was drawn out. You're not talking about increasing pavement width, though.
No,
Correct.
but
So-
Alan, what would that do? Would that give it another additional 6 feet or 7 feet or totally?
6 to 7 feet if both sides.
That's what I mean.
If
Just
both
to be-
strips
But that
were
would,
put
that
in
would
the
be,
mix.
that would just
It
be
would
the
be-
legal
it would
easement,
be good.
so there'd be no
Yeah.
complications later.
Exactly, I think it would ensure somewhat the rights of both parties in the future. And
Oh, okay.
Just clean it up.
That's the referral.
Yeah, it
Okay.
just cleans it up. Because, I mean, you wouldn't want them to put a fence 10 feet off their northerly property line, which they could do tomorrow if they wanted to.
Well, yeah, that would be really divide the
Right.
traffic flow
Right,
pretty well.
exactly, right. Exactly. So that's why, you guys work together, come up with an agreement, get the easements in place to cover the whole driveway. You both use it, everybody's happy.
Yeah, I agree.
I think
That's just what you need, Steve.
Sure,
You know,
yeah.
the
Thank you for your
inference
time.
is down the road, we want the paperwork to be clear.
Right.
So the next owners in 50 years don't have this battle, and they're not standing behind the commission here saying, hey, they took my driveway.
Right.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that. And when I did my project, the owner at that time, we paved a little further down to the corner of his building, and there was never any issues before or after the project. But so we'll continue it. I look forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Steve, thank you very much. Okay.
My name is Steve White, and I live at 35 State Street, the property that's adjacent on the south side. I've lived there for 16 years. I want to say that as a whole, I support this project, but I want to address the proposed 3 parking spaces along the property line with the residence that I live in. Those parking spaces are located as close as 11 feet from my bedroom window. For me, this is a matter of quality of life. The addition of tenants parking that close to the sole bedroom in the house in which I reside, I feel would infringe on my right to quiet enjoyment of the property due to engine noise, exhaust fumes, car doors and trunk slamming, and people talking just outside my window when I'm trying to sleep. again, I support the project, but I would rather find a better solution for those 3 parking spaces that are so close to my house. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you very much, sir.
Kathy Farrelly, F as in Frank, ARRELLY, 30 State Street. Hi, I am in support of this. I just have a few questions. The fire apparatus accessibility, I'm not sure how they're gonna fit down that.
Well, they're
New
gonna answer
driveway.
whatever questions you got, they will address.
Okay, that's the one question. And then how can we be assured that the building will be renovated and not torn down? So at 29 State Street, I live directly across from it. 90% of that building came down. That's not renovating. That is putting up a new building. That's kind of like going around. And we were very upset about that. And I just hope that that won't happen here. I don't know how we can be assured.
Well, we'll see if we can get some answers for that for you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else?
Hi, I'm
You
Peter
have to
Katz, K-A-T-Z. I'm the husband of Storm Summers, who's named the house himself. I wanted to, but I don't know whether we're on the fors or against. I'm like my cousin Steve who lives in the house.
Okay.
I'm for the project, but also with attention or with negative attention to the parking. It's, I know you know this, but it is a residential district. The people tend to look at it sometimes and think that it's commercial. I know the town, has had thoughts about it at times. It's one of the reasons that I'm happy to see this residential project, because it tends to cement our residential use there. But with that said, the parking along the driveway is to me looks counter to the standards in the zoning regs. I looked it up, and it says you want to avoid potential adverse effect upon the potential any adjoining properties. You heard from Steve, who lives there, that he's going to find it an adverse effect. That's not hard to believe. I wouldn't like to hear those doors slamming at night. The regs also say that there's supposed to be screening at all seasons of the year from the view of adjacent residential properties, of parking and loading areas. So I don't know how you would screen from that, screen the cars from our view from the house, other than to put up a row of evergreen trees. And if you did that, you'd end up eating what looks like, barely adequate width for parking. So I don't know how you could accomplish that. I know it's blasphemy to say this, but I stared at the map for a while, and it seems to me that if you left that alone, which is grass right now, that there's room below. It's closer to the river. I'm sure they'd have to go back to inland wetlands, but you wouldn't really have to and one of the claims to fame of this application is that it adds no impervious surface down there. You would have to put in some impervious surface, but you would be taking away the impervious surface that you're talking about putting on the alongside the present driveway. that, turning that into a paved thing is gonna, I don't even know whether your catch basins or not catch basins, but your dry wells and stuff could catch all the water that would be coming down there. That's steep. You know, the first part is sort of level, then it gets very steep going down. If you look at the present driveway, or at least as it has been, it always was rutted out and stuff. It's when you get a real rain, it really flows down there, and that's going to be a tricky thing to manage. If a few parking spaces were put, facing from the river to the house, I don't think they'd have to be the whole length of a car. If you get away from those spaces that are on the north side, the cars could nose into the present parking area to some extent. It's level, down there, so the rain running off would be easier to manage, to catch. I find it hard to believe that all the rain running down from those spots could be intercepted. I'm not talking about a flood event. I'm talking about just a heavy rain. But I'm just trying to propose a possible other solution. The cars have to go somewhere. You're going to have to arrange something, and that seems better to me. That gets them away from the house.
Why don't we see what Andy has to say about this? Andy, can you weigh in on this a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, as far as the runoff is concerned, they're only obligated to collect the first 1.3 inches over the area of those parking spaces. So it's not like they're gonna capture a huge storm. The reason why we're doing that is really to take the initial flows that come from a rainstorm, those are the most polluted.
Right.
And put those in the ground. So that any storms that come after that, when that storage is filled up, would just run right off. But that's also a lot cleaner water than that first flush water. So all we're asking them to collect is just that first flush.
Yeah,
it's that first 1.3 inches, which is perfectly doable for.
Yeah, no, okay.
It's not for a much larger storm. That's the issue. I mean, as far as parking spaces, that's not really an engineering issue. They are, you can put them there. You can put them a whole bunch of different places. This was the proposal that was submitted to us, so that's what we're working with.
I gotta look to somebody to get this gentleman
We'll talk.
Yeah.
We'll respond.
Okay,
I think we can.
Okay, you got enough information, Bernie, to respond to what
I
he?
think so.
Okay, he has enough there he can maybe help you out with that. Bernie and.
Yeah, we'll
He'll
respond
do
to
it.
that.
Okay,
So- so
all right.
you're through-
So, well, you can hear what they say, but I'm suggesting that, if you approve this, that you approve it without parking out, on that driveway. I forgot to say that your regulations also, they say screening, from residential properties and streets, and, park the cars there, and that's what you're gonna see. Driving on State Street, you're gonna, whereas now you look at a grassy slope, you're gonna see, cars piled up in that driveway. One last thing, the lighting, on our side too. Steve says that the lighting's not so great the way it is. So they could address that and make it better, but I certainly hope they won't make it worse. And you could put some kind of wording in an approval if you grant one, to specify that.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much, sir. Did you get that lighting? Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
I'd like you to address that. Not yet, Bernie, not yet.
Vern, I have a question about the screening and the screening is definitely a goal of the site plan requirements and screen as best they possibly can. Unquestionably, this site is something that's has an existing building on it. It's non-conforming, and it's been there since way before your regs existed. So you try to do the best you can with the screening and such. It would be a real push to go back to wetlands and put cars closer to the river. So that's an issue that I don't think Marcus wants to go back and put on his Teflon suit and try that with wetlands.
The parking spaces would be in the upland review area, if not in the wetlands themselves, in order to do that. So
Well,
that's
he's
certainly a
concerned
consideration.
about 11 feet from his window.
And that is an issue. But another method of screening, which, go ahead, I'm ready, is to put up a fence along the property line. I don't know, there is a split rail fence that's proposed, which is a nice docile alternative that very suburban, almost rural in its nature.
Well,
is that something that's acceptable to anyone?
Does anybody agree
Is
with
that a bad
fencing in there?
option?
With this, Bernie?
What's that?
Alan's suggesting some fencing by where cars are gonna be parked by his window.
Yeah, do you want me to address that now?
No, but I'm just saying, I'm just asking you right now, you can address it, I'm just asking you.
Yes.
I wasn't sure you heard that.
It's,
Down right
it's
on.
here.
Yeah, that's. Okay, well,
Yeah,
they'll-
yeah.
second floor. Okay,
That's where the bedroom
we good? All right, Alan?
I guess that's all I have at the moment.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else have any comments on this application whatsoever? For it, or against it, or questions? Okay, having none, that's it. Bernie?
They didn't skip you, did they? I saw you there, I thought for sure you were popping up.
Hey, Bernie, trying to
say.
Don't pick on Mary.
They're just enjoying the moment
My
right now.
birthday was
That's
2
all.
weeks ago.
Belated birthday, Bernie.
All right.
Did you say yours is today?
It is.
Happy birthday.
Okay. No new
Yeah.
exterior lighting is proposed, and certainly not on either north or west. I think there's a light in the rear of the building where that back door is that shines straight down, so we're not gonna add any exterior lighting. I think we were talking a little bit more, Steve, about putting a stop sign further down the driveway to stop cars before your car may be coming in or out.
Yeah, not at the top.
Not at the top.
Okay.
Where the two driveways.
Yeah, before they.
Yeah.
Where mine
Yes,
is.
yes.
So we'd stop our
Yeah,
cars so
not
that
at the
if your
top.
guy is
So
coming
there'd be a
out,
stop sign.
or if somebody's coming down the driveway, we'd wait for your car to come in, then we go.
Yeah.
Um,
That addresses that.
That addresses that.
Certainly, the split rail fence could be a more opaque and taller
We're gonna
fence.
figure something out here a little bit.
On the 3 parking spaces, there's not a whole lot of room to move those spaces on this site. What we could do is a 6-foot stockade fence, that would provide some barrier to lighting from the vehicles coming into those parking spaces. Slamming of car doors, I'm not sure about that, there's parking already there, people in the backyard shut their doors. For years, there was some parking on our site in the front, like before you went down the driveway, there was a car parked there. Before Mr. Barbera bought the property and redid that little area, so there have been cars parking in that area, so I think the 6-foot fence would provide some buffering there, especially for light.
I have a question, Bernie. You said a 6-foot stockade fence. Is there any willingness to go with a wood decorative fence that's maybe not a stockade fence?
Yeah, I was kind of.
I'm just checking reactions.
I was thinking like a vinyl fence,
That's all.
but you don't like that?
Whatever.
Whatever fence.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Whatever
say
fence
that.
you like.
Whatever works.
On the
Make it-
fence, we've just talked about a historic district.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
yeah,
there's not much fencing you're gonna talk about.
Yeah.
So,
Mr. Barber is willing to be a good neighbor and
Okay.
try to work things out.
Make him
I don't think he
understand
wants
that.
to be a nuisance to anyone.
We've got a setback problem in the R20 zone, for the fence height. It would have to be 50 feet back to go higher than the 3 feet.
Oh, boy.
How far back is the third space?
Yeah, do the first 2 spaces.
Well, the first space is set back.
Yeah, that's true a little bit.
But maybe not so much from the actual property line.
Is there
50
availability
feet
for a
from the
variance,
street
something like
line.
A variance is kind of a burden.
Yeah, oh, yeah, no, I-
To a point, but it's something that might be considered. It looks to me, and I know Marcus is a 1 to 20 guy, so I'm sure here you got at least 16 feet of a jump back from the property line to the first space. You're getting.
The street line is actually only 2 or 3 feet towards State Street from the corner road of our house.
Yeah.
That's where the actual street line is.
So it's a 3-foot fence, you're saying, for the first 50 feet, then we could go to 6.
Yep, if that might help a little bit.
now,
That's basically the distance.
work it out a little bit.
Sheriff,
Think you can work this out, folks? Can we work this out?
My wife just asked if a way to solve the screening would be a solid row of those tall, skinny evergreens. Some existed. They're
Arborvitae.
Well, how tall do you just need to be?
Well, the screening from
Yeah.
the building window.
Well, like you said,
You don't have a
second
whole
floor.
lot.
That's the
Yeah.
second
Yeah,
floor.
well, they can't, they're not gonna put in, 15-foot trees there.
Well, there are trees that only grow, like that, only make that big a footprint, but will grow tall.
Sure, sure.
We could put,
Well,
but we probably need
Yeah,
to put them on
on the line.
their property
So if they're
line, so
like right
that,
on the line.
and then,
On the line.
Yeah. Isn't that a good idea? How many trees would it take to do this?
A lot.
That's it.
so you're willing to meet them halfway. You don't want them entirely on your property.
Well, it's a solution, and.
The distance is
they grow fast.
Yeah, well,
Well, if they're only 2 feet wide, then
How,
they're.
each put
How
six,
far
foot-
space?
can't put 6 to 8 foot
About
trees in
20?
there? 6-foot trees? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how many,
They
but.
got,
Twenty.
they wanna come all the way
You
back.
gotta tell me
Yeah,
something.
so that's what,
Yeah,
50 feet?
we'll plant
Yeah.
arborvitae on the.
Yeah, that's the
Some sort
idea.
of-
Yeah, providing, put them in there, and how many? Half a dozen?
Yeah, probably.
Probably 20.
You get giant green tulias, they grow about 2 feet a year once they.
Yeah.
survive
Well,
the
if they're
frost.
only gonna be
Yeah,
a
but those are-
2-foot,
Those are big
Yeah.
footprint.
In the
if they're
front
gonna be those
50
narrow
feet,
trees,
Yeah,
they're
go
not
with
gonna
fence
get
beyond
like an
the
That's what they
arborvitae.
need.
wide enough to,
Yeah.
like an arborvitae would,
No,
you know?
well, that's
You could
good.
do in the front
That's what they're
50
saying,
feet,
arborvitae.
and then the fence beyond the 50 feet, the decorative wood fence.
Yeah.
That's-
Is that acceptable
Seems
to
like-
everybody
yeah.
here?
Yeah.
How, that's it. Okay.
This is P and Z, we bring people together.
Yes, you did on that.
First time for everything.
Alan. Ladies.
What are you trying to say, Mark? By the time we're done, they're gonna be knocking down the building.
Alan, you got this, so we can make a motion, some sort of a motion on this thing.
Don't forget, it's his last meeting.
Yes.
For
He can do whatever he wants.
I am obligated to write the approval. So it's-
Thank you very much.
Christine, do you
Hold on,
have
Bernie,
it?
Bernie, hold on.
It's ready.
Bernie, I asked about the fire apparatus being able to get down.
Oh, yes, good question, thank you. The fire chief has commented, and he raised no negative comments in his memo, so I'm assuming he's good to go as far as providing fire safety. Thanks very much.
Okay, Bernie, thank you so much. Okay, if that's it, that's cool. Anything else to bring into this hearing before I close it? Gentlemen?
Do we do
Nothing?
Nope. Do we do it?
Anything else you want to bring in before I close it?
No, not for me. All set, guys?
Good. Sal?
No, nothing.
Okay. This public hearing is closed.
Good.
Okay. On to the site plan sheet of 98 Broadway.
Ready?
98 Broadway, finally. Seems like you've been waiting all night. I'm sorry.
Oh, thank you.
Good evening, Jim Preddy, Criscolo Engineering, 420 East Main Street in Branford, representing the owners of 98 Broadway, which is right around the corner. It's directly across the street from the old Broadway. There was a house there that had been taken down. It was there when we did the survey. Right now, there's just a little parking area. And there's an office building here next door, and this is vacant on the other side. The property's just under an acre, 42,380. And there is a flood zone line along the edge here and some wetlands on this property line in the rear that are related to the Quinnipiac River. We have already been to wetlands, and they have approved this plan. What we're looking to do is put up a new building for Alexis Carides, who does a bridal business. It's an appointment type thing, but they, she brings in people for hair and makeup trials for brides and that sort of thing. It's not like a salon where you can just call and make an appointment. It's specifically bridal stuff. But we have a parking enough for at least 30 cars. She does have small events on the weekends, up to about 30 people. So that's why we have more parking than is actually required. She was concerned that she would have enough parking now. She has, this business actually exists in Cheshire already, but she's outgrown the space. It's, I don't even think it's half of what this is.
Excuse me, Kim, did you say 30 cars?
Yeah, so we have 39 on here now. 31 is required on here, but we wanted to make sure that there was some space. We did have plans by Claris. This is what the building's gonna look like. Nice looking building with some front lights and a small little patio area in the back. so they can kind of extend it, in nice weather. We do have a landscape plan that we have also put together with trees at the ends of all the parking, and actually a couple of street trees out by the entrance. The planting plan that was presented to the wetlands, we've incorporated in this overall plan, which is also this narrative here that had to do with planting in the wetland area. Going back to this, there is city water and sewer available, so we will be reconnecting. We do have a stormwater system that does collect the pavement areas, run it through a separator, and then we have underground storage and a small detention area out here for overflow situations, which has been reviewed by the town engineer at this point. That's really it. I mean, it's not a very complicated project. One of the things that we have done before I got involved, the first architect that was involved had actually reached out to DOT, and the driveway is here now, and the suggestion was to line it up with Old Broadway, because when you have offsets that are too close like that, it's kind of a dangerous traffic situation. So lining this up, still plenty of sight line. This goes up where it goes over the railroad first, right? Over the railroad. So you can see all the way to the top of the bridge from here. And pretty much to the light in the other direction.
Hey, Jim, what is that line? Were you gonna move that driveway? You're gonna move it up?
We're gonna move it, it was here.
Yeah, you're
And
gonna
we're
line it up.
moving it line
What's
so it
across
lines up.
What's
Old
across?
Broadway. Old Broadway.
The old Broadway that goes,
It
okay,
goes down and around.
you're right,
Yeah.
all right, okay. Okay.
So we are, one of the things we are asking for is a waiver of the sidewalk. There is no sidewalk on this side of the road, it's all on the other side of the road. And I think at the bridge, there isn't any on this side of the road. And there's guardrail here that goes to Stillman. So if you had a sidewalk, you'd end up behind the guardrail, and then what? You know what I mean? So it doesn't really make sense here. I guess we'll put it in if it's necessary, but it just seemed like it didn't make any sense because all the sidewalks on the other side of the street, and it's all connected already.
At one time, there was a sidewalk master plan that was being developed in the town, and this goes back more than 20 years ago. One of the things that they were looking at was making a choice, making a decision on which side of the street, and I'm sure, Vern, you recall that. When they replaced the bridge, I think it's 89, I think they kind of made that choice. We say the bridge over the railroad, but also the bridge over the river. There's no sidewalk, and there's never gonna be a sidewalk on the north side. So here in this area, a decision was kind of made on that. So, as Jim says, it's up to you what you wanna do with it, but.
Sure. Okay.
We'll miss this information.
Pardon?
We'll miss this information going forward. Thank you.
Maybe you could just stop by and visit once a month with us.
You can talk to my wife about it.
Jim, what do you got? Is that it?
Yeah, that's, I'll take any
Yeah,
questions.
okay. Any questions, Bill? Bill? Ken?
No.
questions?
No questions.
No questions.
No question.
The events you're talking on the weekends, what type of event are you talking about? Because I know you got some sort of an outside space on there.
Yeah, it's bridal stuff. Best I can help you with.
Be glad to answer.
Yeah.
I kind of felt that was coming, but I had to ask.
So it's a limited thing. It's not like the shows they have at the casinos or that kind of thing. It's just like
Okay. I guess that's it, nothing staff? Jim, I guess.
I did see the staff report. There was a few things to clean up, and we're agreeable to all of it.
Well,
So.
that goes, you
Yeah.
know, to get the food on us, everything goes with it.
Right.
You know, you're aware of that, and I guess you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
because you're out of here. Okay, that takes care of.
It's on your side.
98, okay. Now we're gonna move down to, change of use. Change of use, now we got anybody here for change of use on 222 Universal Drive?
Just scanning the crowd. Now, I had a request from the owner to postpone the request on Universal Drive. Okay, so I'd like to keep that on for the July meeting, but he's working on some of the tenancies that he has, the existing tenancies, and trying to resolve a couple of them. So he doesn't want to sort of overcommit something or get an approval for something that he lacks a commitment for. So he'd just like to postpone that one.
Well, who, did you get that from Bill Holay?
Yes, I did, yes, that's correct. He's the one who requested it. So I'd just like to postpone that to next month.
Okay, postpone that. Okay, and we have a change of use on 34 Middletown Avenue.
I don't-
Nick Sharpit.
I don't see anyone here for that, but a few years back, there was Bonessi's Pizza, pardon me for the pronunciation. They left. They vacated the space, and the space was bifurcated. Part of it, this commission converted to retail. Part of it, with no change of use, went back to being a pizza restaurant. The retail tenant faltered, and I believe has left. The pizza restaurant would like to resume control of that space and take over that space. So it would be just as large as it once was. They want to restore it to that restaurant use.
Okay.
So if
So, you know enough about this so we can act on this?
there is no one here to represent that, it's up to you if you like to approve it, or if you'd like to table it.
Well, as long as you've got the right information.
They're not going
we can act.
outside the original size
No.
of Vanessa's, right?
Yeah, that is correct, and in looking at it, that square footage is articulated to 900 square feet. I think that
That's what it was.
adds up to what the sum total was before, if the two are added together, but if you want to approve it, I can verify tomorrow that that's still their desire.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Is that okay with the commission?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, good enough. All right,
So-
go back to, going to deliberation. And see if we get some of this stuff done. Okay,
I'll make a motion to go into deliberations.
okay, we have a motion.
I'll second it.
And a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Okay, first thing we're gonna look at is get a motion to continue this zone amendment to next month, so we deliberate next month on that zone amendment. Get a motion for that? Rod? you need a motion?
I will move it to continue to next month
Good, can I get a second?
for deliberation.
Second it.
Okay, I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Okay, that's it, next month with that one, we'll deliberate on that. Okay, now we go to the special, next one is the special permit for the liquor-
Restaurant.
The restaurant on Whitney Avenue.
I'd like to make a motion to approve P 2512S special permit.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, I have,
Second, right?
I did.
okay, we have a motion and a second on the special permit. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, we're all in favor of that. Now, that was, no, that is That's done, that takes care of that. Okay, that's, okay. Moving along here, we have a special permit for, the next one is, on 31 State Street, which we just talked about with Bernie, and we're gonna take the special permit, then we'll take the site plan after the special permit. And what language do we have to put in this out after all that talking?
Well, I think that the applicant expressed that they were agreeable to paving the parking. So a motion with all applicable comments, but in particular with paving of the 3 parking spaces with accompanying drainage. And they were also agreeable to planting a row of arborvitae in the front 50 feet coming back from the property line.
Okay.
On the line, and then providing a decorative fence for the remainder of the property line that abuts the parking stalls. So not all the way to the river, but just to kind of cover those parking spaces.
Right.
So that could be a 6-foot-high fence. And I guess the idea would be to not put a 3-foot-high fence, which would kind of interfere. You got limited room there to go with the duo of the fence and the arborvitae. It seemed like they preferred, and I think the
Can I ask this
owners
question?
It is extremely
prefer the
tight.
arborvitae.
Can I ask this question? There's 3 cars in there parked, and we've got arborvitae and a fence. How does the second car get out?
I believe there's enough length to the space.
Spaces are
They're
20,
parking
25
in
feet.
parallel
22, I think,
yeah.
formation, so,
Parallel park.
Careful.
I mean, there are
We're
those.
not, I'm just saying, we're not blocking them with by.
No, they're appropriate.
No,
They're
no,
appropriately
it-
sized parallel
Okay.
spaces.
It would be to the side of the spaces.
Okay.
And they were agreeable also to pursuing with the neighbor, Mr. Nugent, an adjustment to the easement that would be favorable to the commission. So those 4 things, adding the fence as described, adding arborvitae as described, adding paid parking as described, and pursuing the widening of the easement as described.
Right, okay, well, that's good, you got it all. Can I get a motion?
And all other applicable comments.
I'm gonna make a motion
Okay.
to approve.
I have a motion to approve with those conditions,
Yes.
as well as whatever else is on there. Can I get a second?
I'll second it.
I'm
Okay,
sorry, who seconded?
I did.
Thank
okay. We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, very good. That takes care of the special permit. Now, can I get a motion to approve the site plan?
I'll make a motion to approve the site plan.
Okay, I
With
have a
the
motion.
same applicable comments.
Yep.
Same here. Can I get a second? Okay, I have motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Who's second?
Right. Okay. Okay, 98 Broadway. That's just, everybody just showed.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve 98 Broadway
With a waiver of sidewalks or
with a
not?
waiver of sidewalks.
I'll second it.
Okay, I have a motion second with a waiver of sidewalks.
Yep.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, good enough. That-
So, I'm sorry, who had the second on that?
I did.
Okay.
Yep, so we're good there. Now, where the heck are we? 98 Broadway. Yeah, well, that's it now. That's it. That's the end.
Next,
Huh?
next is oh yeah, the meeting minutes,
No, no.
and 34 minutes.
If you wanted to do the change of use,
Change of use on 34 Nick's Charpet. Get a motion?
I'll make a
To approve
motion to
it?
approve it.
I'll
Okay.
second.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, good enough. That takes care of that. Now,
who had the second?
Oh, I did.
Thanks.
Do
okay,
we want to discuss the 2026 meeting dates?
okay, that's what we're doing right now. How does it look for you, gentlemen? Everybody's got a
Looks
copy?
good.
Sounds good.
Everybody says,
Yeah, that's fine.
everybody likes it? Okay, can I get a motion to approve the meeting dates?
I'll make a motion to approve the 2026 meeting dates.
Okay, can I get a second?
Aye.
A second?
I did.
Oh, you second, you
Yeah.
second, Ken seconded.
Someone over there.
Everybody in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Who made that motion? Was it Paul or Brian?
Brian did.
And,
That's good, 'cause I put on my phone, I don't have to
okay,
change.
can I get a motion to approve the May 5th minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the May 5th minutes.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, anything else?
So who had the second?
Right.
Just make it up as you go along.
Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, I have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion and a second.
Right, second.
All-
Right, second, yeah.
All in favor to adjourn?
Aye.
Okay.
The preceding program is brought to you in part through a grant from the town of North Haven. Watch town meetings or other videos on demand at nhtv.com.